You're stating an obvious fact to the client, but the client doesn't know it.
Yeah, and tell them on 20 years experience, you already heard it from Steven. Tell them all that they will buy on a higher price if you've built that rapport, if you have made them trust you, because it goes back to the whole know, like, and trust. What's going on, Steven? It's me and you again.
It is as we are here all about blog time.
That's
What?
right. I like doing these. It gives me an opportunity just to hang out with you and talk for a little bit. We can talk about some of our programs. And it's cool that she gave us our own topic. We get to pick what we want to. And so I picked building rapport. And for me, it's kind of a personal thing, the reason why I chose it, because I go way, way back in the day with my dad training me. And the first thing he told me, old school, was wipe your feet off on the mat, which gives you about 10 seconds to look around and find something to build rapport on. And I just think it's funny. He would always, and he's just a little old man, looks like Magoo or something. He just wipe his little feet on the mat and look around and try to build rapport. But it's the same thing, even fast forwarding 20 something years later, when you're on a Zoom call or you're on a drop in or you're on a retention call, you still have to have that importance of building rapport with that person that they're in. Am I right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think a lot too is first impression,
Yeah.
right? So while you're wiping your feet, looking around, they're probably looking at you like, what, deciding what they think about you as well. So
100%. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's huge. And I think, you've trained a lot of people, in the agency side on these kinds of things. What do you think is the biggest holdup and hang up of people talking about convincing them to do business with that person or building that rapport? Why are people so nervous about doing that, you feel like?
I think it's because they think the person on the other side doesn't care, especially on a call. Like they're like, why do they need to know that I have kids? I'm like, okay, well, you don't have to tell everybody you have kids, right? Like it's pick and choose. But if you hear kids in the background when you're talking to somebody, you can be like, oh, you have kids or grandkids? And then start a conversation. Like, I do too. My daughter's 27. She finally moved out. Thank goodness. That
Yeah,
kind of
no, I
thing.
get it.
But
Yeah, I think that's good advice to be able to connect with them on that. Or if you see a picture behind them, or like I'm looking at you right now with plants everywhere. So I know you probably have a green thumb and I don't. And so it's maybe something I talk to you about that.
right. I mean, it's picking up those clues and trying to find what their interest is and then build on it. Like, you don't have to know anything about plants. You can just be like, wow, you got a whole lot of plants there.
Yeah. A lot of people, for a long time, I didn't have it. But recently, I put a picture of my dog behind me, and every single call, someone says, "What a beautiful dog." Was obviously my dog's not blue; it's a painting. But to say, "Yeah, that's my chocolate lab," I make a joke about it being a painting and not a real picture, and it just shows that personality, builds a little bit of rapport. They tell me about their dog, even if it's some annoying dog I don't like. I still like, "Oh, I love those kind of dogs. They're great." Why do you think Kelly and I and you, when we talk about in the Apex sales program, we talk about letting them know how long you've been in the business or why you chose to be at this agency or whatever. Why do you think that's so important in building rapport?
I think because people are so used to things just being transactional now. Like when I call, the internet company, they're basically like, what do you want? And I'm like, broke it. They're like, fine, do that. Right.
Yeah.
It's not warm and fuzzy. So do I get excited when I think about the internet company? No. But when I think about my agent, I'm like, oh, every time I call, she asks about my trailer, ask me where I went camping. Like, it's a good experience. My rate keeps changing. My rate keeps going up, right? Everything's going up. But I keep my insurance where it's at because the woman that services it knows me.
Right.
If something major changes, she's the first one to call. I'm not going to get that with somewhere else. But I think that people are just really worried about sharing the information because then it makes them sound, they don't want to sound salesy. I don't want to be salesy. And I'm like, I was on the agency side for 20 years. I managed a large agency. We sold to private equity. And now I'm like pumped to be able to come and fix your problems like I did theirs.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm sharing that with a prospective client, they're like, oh, snap, this person has experience. They know what the hell they're doing and they want to help me.
Instantly, Stephen Harrington Dakota is like their new best friend all of a sudden because they connect with you on that. It's like, oh, he's been in my chair. You probably sat in every chair in an agency similar to me. So when you can say, don't tell me about account management problems. I've sat in that chair. Don't tell me about this. I've been there. I know I can help you. I get that. The other thing, that we talk about in building rapport is, trying to let them know about either the carrier they chose or about why your agency. I talked to a lot of agencies. A big thing right now, I say right now, but a big thing in the industries is being involved in the community. And I think if your agency is involved in the community or has a charity or has this or that, highlight that. It has nothing to do with the product you're selling them, but it makes them feel comfortable with your agency to say, I love working at the Harrington Dakota agency because we're so involved in the community. We get involved with the Goodwill or Salvation Army or this or that. And then people start getting these warm and fuzzies.
Right. And I think like right now we're doing a lot of sales training because the markets are changing. We don't want to reshop everything.
Yeah.
Like we want to be able to maintain without doing the reshop, but we're having to build relationships with the client, like letting them know you're an independent agent that works with some of the best carriers around. And just think, I'm going to shop this for you so you don't have to. You're doing it anyways, right? You're stating an obvious fact to the client, but the client doesn't know it.
Yeah. And tell them all 20 years experience. You already heard it from Steven. Tell them all that they will buy on a higher price if you've built that rapport, if you have made them trust you, because it goes back to the whole know, like, and trust. Tell them, Steven. They want to hear from you, not me.
I don't think they want to hear nothing from me.
Whatever. This guy,
No, but I
this
mean,
guy's
people,
done it.
when you build the relationship from the beginning and you find out what their pain point is, you're talking through it and you're getting to know them on a more personal level. Like you can use that and make it, it's that, again, it's that warm and fuzzy, right? So
Yeah.
I did really well with Doctors and Lawyers Wife. For some reason, I could close a huge, like, $5 million home with vehicles, art, jewelry, and a 10 million umbrella like no other with one phone call. And we just start talking through things. I'd be like, oh, well, what about jewelry? And they're like, well, what do you mean jewelry? And I'm like, oh, well, we love our jewelry. So there's a limited amount of coverage on your standard policy.
Yeah.
This policy's got a little bit better, but I know you got to have something. Like, tell me about your jewelry.
Yeah.
And we would just start talking. And I would be taking copious notes about carats and size and what it meant and how they got it. And for my anniversary, I got this. And on Valentine's Day, I got this and whatever. So when I go back out, I'd be like, okay, so we have the Valentine's Day bracelet. We have the, engagement ring. We have the anniversary this. And they were like, oh, well, how do you know all that? I'm like, we literally just talked, right? Like,
Yeah.
but it wasn't a transaction. It wasn't a 2 carat, whatever, valued at X. It was like, oh, that ring you got for this. Or when you went to Hawaii, that those earrings you got, or we were making it personal. And then I'd be like, cool. So we just need some signatures and a down payment. Let's get this going. They'd be like, I need to talk to my husband. I'm like, really? You're going to talk to your husband about this? Is he going to understand what we just went through?
Right.
Well, fine. Here's my credit card. I'm like, great. Thank you. Have a good day.
All because you built the rapport, all because they trust you, all because they know you. And I think people get so nervous about it. They think, again, going back to your reshop scenario, people think automatically you have to. But if you build that, again, they know you, they like you. Now, by educating them on why they shouldn't shop, let's say 5 years ago, they first bought the home, they had a 10-year-old roof. Now it's a 15-year-old roof. It might cause rate to go up. Maybe back then they had an 11-year-old. Now they've got a 16-year-old who's driving. Oh, snap. Maybe they've got, some damage or they've had some tickets, some accidents, whatever. It may not be the best move to shop. So you've explained that. Now you've built rapport. They know and like you. Now they trust you because you built that rapport. And then I also think, tell me if I'm wrong, but I also think, when you start building it into what we like to say, the intake form or the sales sheet, asking questions like, why are you shopping? Other than price, what's important to you about selecting an agent? And if you ask those questions and shut up, people will tell you everything you want to know.
Yeah, absolutely. I love my agent to death. I just told everybody I love my agent, but freaked out when my rate went up on my auto. Called in a panic. And I'm like, okay, but they renewed. They offered renewal. Like I should have been non-renew. I know I have activity. I'm a horrible risk. They renew. And if you're listening, Carrier, I'm really not. I'm just saying this so that we have, something to talk about.
An example. Yeah. It's a pure example.
I know a person who might, but I'm like, cool, but they offered renewal, right? And she's like, well, yeah, but the price went up by $200-300 a month. I'm like, but they offered renewal.
Right.
She's like, right, but it went up $200-300 a month. I'm like, but they offered renewal. And she's like, why you keep saying that? I'm like, I'm grandfathered in with coverages they don't offer anymore. I don't know anybody else in the state that offers this. Coverage is what's important to me. I drive rental cars all the time. I have dropped down primary liability on my auto and umbrella for any vehicle I drive. It doesn't go to the other person first, which is unheard of. I have
Right.
guaranteed replacement on my trailer and truck, which are all 3 years old now. I'm like, this is stupid stuff you can't buy anywhere else. If my trailer and truck catch on fire tomorrow, they're going to be writing me a $200,000 check.
Right.
Even though it's not valued at that anymore, I get to go buy brand new ones.
Sure.
So why would I want another policy that's not going to give me the same level of protection?
Exactly.
She's like, well, you're just an insurance agent. I'm like, so then you know what's important to me, right? Coverage. I understand contract and coverage.
Yep. No, that's awesome. And so when, also another question that I like, and I wanted to hear from you why it is so important. You could tell the audience when you ask them how'd they hear about you, whether it's a web, referral or realtor, mortgage, why is that so important? Why would that be help you close the deal?
How did you hear about it? Well, I mean, if it's a referral from somebody you know and it's one of their friends, you have that in common, right? So if it came from like my mortgage lady, I love to call her my mortgage lady, or my real estate lady, right?
Right.
I mean, there's hundreds of them out there, but I only have one. Don't mess with my booze. We're gonna fight if you come after them.
Right.
But if they're like, oh, so and so told me to call you, and I'm like, oh, shit, I love her. Oh my god, did she close your home for you? Did she do a refi? How'd you meet her?
Yep.
And then they tell the story, and I'm like, cool, we now have a connection. Or it was my real estate agent and mortgage lady knew that I was always going to offer a home auto umbrella. So people call and be like, I need home, but they also said you were going to talk to me about auto and some other damn thing too. They said it wasn't an option. You were just going to tell me about it, but I had to give you the information, right? If I didn't ask and I just took the information for auto, I wouldn't, or home, I wouldn't have known they already knew about everything else I was going to be offering them.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Yeah, I love the builder rapport because I just think, yeah, again, it makes everything personal. It gives you an opportunity to wow them with either education or just helping them to like you and just being yourself. And I think that's just so much fun. And so whenever, Kelly told us we could write a blog about whatever we wanted to, that was a dangerous thing to tell us. But I chose this just because I thought it could be safe and fun. And, I think it applies to every aspect of sales, whether it's sales for a new business or even retention. And I think one of the things that people have a hang up that I've noticed in doing the retention courses is, what to do when they're collecting information on their phone, then they have that awkward silence. And I feel like that's a great time to build rapport.
Well, that's when you should be listening for clues too, especially over the phone. Like, do you hear a bird, a dog, a cat, an animal, children,
Yep. Going back to your children's thing.
spouses,
Yeah.
dishes?
Yeah.
Like,
And
what is
I
it
think
that's going on?
Yeah, I think also it's okay if you've got the phone, you've got your headpiece in and you're talking headpiece, earpiece, whatever the word is, but you're typing along. You can even tell them what you're doing while you're doing it. If they hear you typing, it's like, so right now what I'm doing is I'm typing this. Da, da, da. Oh, just noticed you said a 2021 Lexus, whatever. I love the Lexus. What do you think about it? Do you like it? Is it roomy? Does it da 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 da? My wife had one last year. We loved it. Whatever. Or oh, you said a poodle. Oh, is it a standard poodle? Is it a mini poodle? Is it a this poodle? What? I don't know. I don't know the damn thing about poodles, but I'm using something. But
Right.
again, you're talking while you're typing, so it's not awkward silence, and you're building a rapport along the way.
Absolutely. I think when you build rapport too, it helping to soften that relationship. I was talking to somebody earlier today, and I'm like, well, you can write a crap ton of new business. That's great. But if you're not building a relationship as you're writing it, and then we're servicing it like a transaction, it's going out the back door. So for everyone that's leaving, we're having to bring in 7 more.
Yeah.
Do you want to write 7 customers just because one of them didn't know that you provided great service and, you didn't have a relationship and whatever? Fun thing I love to do with new producers is I'm like, what makes your agency so special? Tell me about your agency. And they're like, we provide great service. And then I'm like, what does service mean to you?
Yeah.
Because
Everybody says that.
everybody has great service. But if we don't tell people what makes it so special, they don't.
Yep.
We're the largest agency on the Western Seaboard. Therefore, we have hundreds of carriers and lots of support. Somebody's always going to answer the phone. Or, hey, it's me and my husband. We're a family run agency. Sometimes we can't always return your call right away. We got something going on with the kids, but know that we're here for you. And people will buy into that, right?
Oh, yeah.
If,
A lot of
if, it,
people
if
like
it
the
fits
cute
their
choice.
personality, then you're going to have that instant connection. Then when there is a problem, they'll be like, oh, I hope everything's okay with the kids. I know they said sometimes I can't, answer the phone right away because things are going on with the kids. But you set the rules and built a relationship from the beginning.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I love that. So, tell me this, like I said earlier, we got to write about whatever we want to. What's your topic? What did you choose for your topic? So we can be looking forward to yours.
5 stellar steps to networking success.
Ooh. And you
Ooh,
are really good at networking, so I can't wait to read that one. And that one will come out after this one, I'm sure. And so y'all be looking for that one. Maybe I'll be on a blog podcast with him about it, and we could talk about all of that. That's exciting. You're still in the new stage, so to speak, of being with us. I'm
yes.
not. I'm the old guy now, but you're the new guy. So tell me what's been the most exciting thing for you about working here and working with your clients.
Taking my own lesson.
Oh,
Ah. Like,
wow.
I was we were talking about picking up the phone to call, like, don't just email something, pick up the phone
Yeah.
and call. And I was like, I should probably take my own advice. I picked up the phone. I was like, hey guys, like, what's going on? I've said this over 3 times. You haven't responded. They're like, I wasn't sure what button to click. And I was like, awesome. So scroll here, click this word, and it opens up and it'll have you verify it's you, and then you
Yeah.
start. And they were like, okay, cool. It's all done now. I'm like, literally, that's the only reason you didn't. Well, I didn't want to sound dumb and send you an email that said I couldn't figure out how to click the button. I'm like, but you're telling me over the phone. Well, yeah, because it's on the phone. And I'm
Right.
like, okay, so maybe we should just take our own advice sometimes too. Like, take a step back and be like, hey,
That
we're like
is
building rapport. How'd you hear about us?
yeah, that's great
And I'm
advice.
like,
That's
I've
awesome.
worked with them. They're amazing.
Yeah, so, a little behind the curtain here, I again, take your own advice. I'm not, the greatest at hitting deadlines, and so Steven has offered to help me and be my accountability partner on that because sometimes I miss a deadline by an hour or 7 or a couple of days. It's good to have a good teammate. It's good to have a good culture and where you work, and I love that about APP. I'm so glad you're on the team. So glad you were able to come in
Yeah,
last minute and hang out with me today and talk about building rapport. I'm loving building rapport with you. I can't wait for the next. We can grow old together in this agency,
we can.
Performance Partners Business. Thank you very much. If y'all want to look up Steven, hire him. He's awesome. And
Give Keith a
let's
shout.
go. Let's go. Thank you.